Hey there, YouTubers. I think I'll start with some show and tell, lest I forget. Sometimes I get deeply into my lecture mode, and I forget some of the exhibits that I want to share. So let's get those out of the way. For example, let's look at Quadrivium again. Excellent book. If you have a chance, look for this. Great gift. The four classical liberal arts of number, geometry, music, and cosmology. I just happened to turn directly to a page on the jitterbug transformation. What do I mean by the jitterbug transformation? Those of you who are veterans of this channel already know this is where I'm likely to pull out the vector flexor, right? And it goes both ways if we get the momentum going, right? Takes a little practice. It's kind of a workout that we do. It's both a physical workout if you happen to have the equipment here, but also a conceptual workout because here in this channel we are exploring our American heritage, you could say, our connections to, well, for example, to the Octatetra Museum. This is by Dan Sutton in San Antonio. And through museums like this and art galleries like Sam's, we're able to help children appreciate the wonders of geometry and all the heritage that comes with that, and the explorations and investigations, what people have learned how to do with origami or other construction materials. In this case, I'm seeing a lot of emphasis on paper. And in the case of Sam's Gallery, there's a lot of emphasis on what different materials, plastic, pure copper, steel, right? So he's experimenting with creating a lattice out of different materials. But what's in common? You know, what is the family resemblance? If you're into Wittgenstein and you wander into Sam's Gallery, you might end up asking yourself, what is it that connects these different incarnations together? There's that very picture again from Quadrivium. What is it that connects us together? What is it that gives us um, cohesion? What is the gestalt going on here? That's a good way of asking. What is the gestalt? So, in my case, giving private tours of this gallery for various people has been my privilege over the last few weeks, and we do have a scheduled breakdown time in the coming month. So if you do happen to get to Portland in the next week or two, maybe look me up if you're not able to make first Thursday. If you can make the first Thursday in December, then you can explore this uh, in a just anonymous public fashion. Otherwise, the windows are big and the lights are on. So if you just want to do a drive-by and take a look, that's certainly another way to go about it. So that's, have a friend of yours go on your behalf if you know anyone who lives in Portland, something like that. Also, the website is available if you're curious, including with one of my YouTubes. I've been making quite a few YouTubes on this gallery because I know it's unique and I would feel remiss if it went by without adequate um, photojournalism, is I guess what I do, right? And other people are doing more videography than more sophisticated in a lot of ways. I go around with a still camera a lot. So another couple show and tell items. Um, I'm reading Greg Hutchins has been a mentor for me in a lot of ways. His whole family has been a mentor for me, and I learn a lot from reading his books. I haven't taken his trainings yet, but I do look forward to finishing this. I've gotten into it. This is called Working It: Disruption Rules 2020 Future of Work Edition. And, I'm all about feeling that there's a lot of disruption going on. I'm not necessarily trying to foment more disruption than there already is. But the fact that our so-called public schools don't share the vital futurism that is represented here in this gallery and in Dan's gallery. And I think Synchronophile should be mentioned as a very important resource based on what happened with Joe Moore. In other words, what happened thanks to Joe Moore was that we got Synchronophile, an independent resource on Buckminster Fuller. So check it out sometime. This whole subculture has to pretty much make its own way without much support from the universities, right? They don't really want this in the humanities yet. Even though in Hugh Kenner, a good entry point is Hugh Kenner's The Pound Era. And I do tackle, Ezra Pound as being on the wrong side in World War II and what happened, what they did to him. There's some kind of parallel with Julian Assange, although I'd say they're treating Assange a lot worse. But for similar reasons, Ezra was considered a traitor in a lot of ways. And I have some interesting pictures in other videos from when Bucky Fuller and Noguchi went to Italy to visit with Ezra, or actually to give some talks where Ezra was a guest and felt hopeful again after all he'd been through, right? So I take up these literary topics, and as you've seen from the previous video where I cite various poetic lectures and so on, we're in the humanities here, but with a bridge to STEM, with the bridge to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that bridge is what we call the isotropic vector matrix, but which is already called other things in the literature. So Fuller comes along with his own nomenclature, and right out of the gate, that alienates a lot of people because they don't have a lot of space for multiple nomenclatures. But if you're in the philosophy department, you're kind of used to thinkers hatching their own language. It's kind of the normal thing to do. It's kind of like what Heidegger did or Hegel or any of those, right? So we have a lot of tolerance for like a Bucky Fuller kind of writer, including for Bucky Fuller himself, it turns out. So if you do go to the university coming up in future decades, you may well have some pretty good resources on this material. But in the meantime, here it is on the internet, and feel free to check us out. Talk to you later.